What is going on, guys? So today's video is going to be a short little video, but it's something that I get a question on a lot, and that is, should I live on or off base whenever I'm active duty? Now, for those of you that don't know, I am in the Army Reserve, so I don't live on post. I don't live on base. I don't, have personal experience in this, but I am going to talk about maybe some of the things that I might have thought about that maybe you haven't thought about. So just a general, idea of what to expect, what some of the pros and cons are, in my opinion, of living on versus off post. So hopefully this will help you guys out if you're thinking about making the decision of living on or off post. So the first thing that you have to think about is BAH, and if you don't know what BAH is, it is the housing allowance that you get if you're wanting to live off post, or maybe you go on order somewhere and you have rent or a mortgage. BAH is the amount of money that the government is going to give you in order to cover your, housing, mortgage, your rent, plus utilities. It doesn't necessarily cover like, TV and internet or anything like that. It's just, the rent, the utilities, so like water, electricity, and stuff like that. That's what it's supposed to cover. And then this BAH amount is going to vary from zip code to zip code. If you want to know how much it's going to be at a specific base or around a specific base, you can literally Google the BAH for, this zip code or this city, and you can kind of see what it should be based on your rank, because your BAH is also going to be based on your rank. The higher rank you are, the more money you're going to get for BAH. Also, if you have kids, the more kids you have, the more money you're going to get from the military for that. So that's the first thing you need to consider, is how much BAH you're going to get. The reason that you need to consider this is because when you live on post, when you live on base, they're going to provide you with housing. You're not really going to get to pick where you're going to live. You're not going to get to pick the nice house, the whatever house. It's going to be kind of separated based on your rank and the family size. So you're not going to be like, living next to a lieutenant colonel if you're like, just some married private or something like that. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a little bit segregated based on rank, and you're not going to get really, as far as I know, much of a decision at all where you're actually going to live. So that's something you got to think about. You're going to get your housing. It's going to be paid for, but you're not going to have really any input in what house you're gonna get, and you might have to wait, weeks or a couple of months, really even, to actually get that house. But living off post, you get to pick exactly where you want to live. You get to pick the neighborhood and all that stuff, and then you get paid for that. So living on base, you don't really get to pick the house exactly, and you don't get BAH. But when you live off post, the reason you want to consider that BAH is if you can get something that is equivalent to or better than what you're going to get on post for the BAH amount, that's something to really consider, because the houses on different bases are not all the same. So if you guys are going to ask me, oh, are the houses nice on this post or whatever, I don't know. I haven't been to every single post there is. The houses that were at Fort Benning, I think, are a lot nicer than the houses that were at Fort Gordon, so that's something to consider. So they're going to vary completely from post to post, and then the city around the post is going to vary from post to post. So whenever you're actually trying to make a decision, you need to look at what houses are available on the post, what houses can you get for the amount of money that you're going to get for BAH off post, and then maybe even look at pocketing a little bit of money. One of the reasons that a lot of people would like to live off base is because they get to actually keep a little bit of that money. So let's say, for example, the government's going to give you $1,500 a month for your BAH. Whatever city you're at, you're going to get $1,500 a month. And then you look at a place and it's about, $1,200 for rent. You're going to get, be paying about $200 in utilities. This is just spitballing numbers right here. And you're going to be left with an extra $100 a month. You could pocket that money essentially, whereas if you lived on base, you're not going to get to pocket any of that because you're not going to get paid any extra for that. So that's something to think about. That is something that people will do. You just live off post. You're going to get to pick your house. You're going to get to pick whatever rental apartment that you're going to have, and you might be able to pocket a little bit of extra money. Or you could, instead of living at a crappy house on post, you could find maybe a nicer house, use your BAH and all that, and then maybe pay an extra $100 or $200 a month for like the perfect, place that you want. So those are a couple things to think about whenever you're thinking on versus off. Another thing that you should think about is kind of like the experience, right? If you're living on base, you're living on base, and that's basically going to be your life. There's schools on bases, there's, commissaries, or basically grocery stores. There's the PX, which is basically like a little mini mall. You got gyms, you got all these other different things that you don't really need to leave base for anything. So if you're living on base, that's kind of where you're going to be the vast majority of the time. If you're wanting to leave, you're going to have to go through that process. But then at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, really, you know, you're really close to everything. Whenever your spouse or you have to go to work in the morning, you're already there. You know, it's only going to be probably a couple minute drive for you to get to PT or for you to get to wherever building you're supposed to go for work. Whereas somebody who lives off base, it's not going to be like that. They're going to be, you know, having to maybe pay to go to a gym if they're too far to go to the gym on base. Maybe that's something you got to think about. That's going to be money coming out of your own pocket. There's going to be maybe some things that are farther away. It's not just going to be like a 1 mile trip to the PX if they need to go pick up some groceries, or to the commissary. That's something to think about. And then in the mornings, whenever you got to go to PT, you know, if you're living 20 minutes away from the base, you know, you got to, you know, essentially wake up and get ready 20 minutes earlier, account for traffic. So, you know, leave 30 minutes earlier than you would have if you lived on base. So that's going to be a little bit easier. And then you got the commute at the end of the day. Or something that will happen is, you know, in the middle of the day, whenever you go for your lunch break or whatever, if you're living on base, you could just go home for lunch. You could hang out with your family, you can do all that. But then, you know, if you live off base, if you live kind of far away, you might not have that opportunity, or you might be really pushing it to try to get home. So convenience is both there for off post and not, right? So if you're living off post, then there might be convenience for maybe the selection or the area that you're deciding to live at, versus if you live on post, you got kind of everything there, but you're kind of confined to the actual base. But then the convenience of driving back and forth, if you're on base, everything for your job is basically just right there, whereas if you're off, it's not. And the final thing that I think is kind of important that you should think about is just, if you live on post, you're going to be surrounded by the military at all times. And it's not like the military is bad or anything, but it's just like you're just surrounded by work. You're just surrounded by the military. A lot of people might think, or just feel like they don't ever escape it because they're just always on the base. You know, if you live off, then at the end of the day, you go home to your wife and kids, your husband and kids, whatever it may be, and you're off the base. You know, you're not surrounded by people in uniform all the time. There's not Humvees going down the road or whatever. There's not all these things that you have to worry about that you would if you lived on base all the time. So that little escape factor, the ability to kind of get away from it all, to kind of get away from work, will probably be a benefit for a lot of people. You know, for me, you know, I love the gym, but a lot of time people, like, if you get a job working at a gym, maybe they, like, a lot of times they just don't feel like going to the gym sometimes because, you know, they're at the gym all the time because of work, and then they don't want to go to the gym and work out because they're just there all the time. So if you're working on post all the time and then you live on post, it might be, obviously it depends from person to person, but it might be for you that you just kind of get tired of that. And you know, if you are married, if you have the opportunity, you could then choose to go off post if you get really tired of that. So that's something that you consider. You could, you know, live on post for a certain period of time until you kind of get used to the area, and then after a while, you know, maybe a year or so, you could decide to live off post and move off post because you're more familiar with where you want to go. Because I guess if you're moving across the country to go to a base where you don't know the area at all, it might be a little bit difficult to find an actual good spot for you to live. So I guess that's something to think about. You could do a little bit of both. You could live on, and then after a while you could live off. So that's my 2 cents on living on versus off post. Which one is better, which one you should do. I think it kind of depends on your specific circumstance. In me, I would probably try to either take advantage of the BAH living off post. Again, you have to be married for this, or you have to be, I believe, E6 or an officer to actually live off post. So if you're a private and you're not married, you're not gonna live off post. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning of this video, but if you are married, under any circumstance, no matter what rank you are gonna be able to have the option of getting a home on base or off base. But if it were me, I would try to take advantage of the BAH, whether that is to get a place for an equal value, maybe just a tiny bit more, $100, $200 more a month, that is way nicer than the on-base housing, or, you know, live off base and then try to pocket $100 or $200 a month. That's something to think about. There are going to be circumstances when the off base housing, the apartments, all the different rental homes and all that stuff off base are not going to be so nice compared to the on base housing, because there are some that are really nice on post. So you got to think about that. You just look at your specific scenario. What do the houses look like on versus off? So I just rambled on a little bit more there. Just, I guess, I don't know if we can add in an extra minute to this video, but that is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. That would be awesome. If you want to stick around some more videos, hit the subscribe button. That would be even better. If you're not following me on Instagram and Snapchat, social media links are right there. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you later.